Okay, what did I learn this month? I learned first and foremost even when playing just the bass in one melody note, fret the whole chord. So even if you need just this fifth fret and the open E, I'm fretting the whole D7 chord. And David does this all over the place. But when transcribing this month, I found he does this section where he comes up and then he does where he's got first the root and the note itself, so he can slide down, and then the whole D7, even though he only needs the high E string, and then the whole D7 again in a different inversion, even though he only needs the B string. So I started thinking, well, why does he do that? Why does he fret the whole chord? And I think, and he can confirm, but I think it's for a safety net. I think it's because when I'm going down, I could play that. I could play this. I could play any note or any note would work from each of the chords. So it gives me options. I could play the high, I could play the B, I could play the G, I could play the D. And the D works. I mean, that's a nice that's a nice melody too. So I think he grips everything so that you get options. It's kind of like a safety net. If you hit the wrong string, you're still okay because anything in that grip is going to work. And I see it all over the place. But I'll tell you, if I would have saw him play it and then taken the sheet music, sat on the couch, and worked out the transcription, my fingering wouldn't have been that, right? I'd have been thinking like maybe that or, that or whatever, because I came from, I would have thought that, maybe slid down to that, so I wouldn't have done the full grip. And I think it's important. And speaking of important, somebody on the forum, I think it was Jim, if I remember right, said he was looking at like this raking that David does. And that's definitely one of the things where it's like, how come when I play the line, it doesn't sound like when David plays the line? And it's because of inflections. And he was hearing like this, instead of just hearing, he would hear that whole raking down to the target note. Is essential. I mean, it's all over blues. And it's typically, it's done with a pick where they just kind of rake down. So I just do it with my fingernail. I just use my finger and land on the target note. But I think David does it with his fingers. He does like a backwards roll real quick to get that reverse, thing. But you can use just the side of one of your fingers. It's that effect. But what I thought was cool about Ben mentioning it is you're listening for the right things. And I think it was Ben. If I have that wrong, I apologize. But you're listening for the right things because those inflections are why people that, play and sound like that, that's what makes them sound like that. It's those little inflections. And then the last thing I'll mention is in the last Zoom, David said the rhythmic element of a melody is the most persuasive. And amen to that, because that is the part, you could take the same notes and change the rhythmic displacement of those notes, and it could go from a fantastic, interesting line to a really boring and uninteresting line. So I'd say that that rhythmic element of a melody is the most persuasive, and I would add is the most elusive, because for me, it's the hardest part to remember. It's very hard for me, for some reason, to remember the rhythm of a melody. So I'm open to suggestions as to how I can better remember rhythmic melodies, the melody, the rhythm of a melody. Also, when transcribing, writing out the notation, it's the most difficult there too. Writing out the notes is really easy. Even in standard notation, the notes themselves are easy. It's writing out the rhythms, cool, interesting rhythms. Man, that's tough. If you've ever gone through the process of trying to write notation, writing out the rhythm, that's the hard part. It really is. It's the hard part. And it's the part that slips my mind. So I use like my phone and I record it in. Sometimes I sing the melody in. I try and remember it that way, incorporate it into songs. But still, it eludes me. Anyway, what have you guys found out? Hope it helps.